If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody that is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody that is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Oh, my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain.
For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we carry nothing out. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Cast thy burdens upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. Behold, God of my salvation, I will trust and not be afraid. For the Lord Jehovah is my strength and my song. He also has become my salvation. The order of the service is as follows. At this time, we will have family visitation. Good afternoon. When I think of Deborah Dalton, I think of someone who was excited about life, happy, and I think today it would not do her justice for us to sit here and act like she was not there. So let's cheer up. Let's give God a praise for Deborah. And to know her was to love her. And we just thank God for her life and her legacy. And we're going to celebrate it today. A few housekeeping suggestions that I want to make to you, and I hope you will be cooperative. First of all those on program, so you don't have to come from way somewhere, come over here near the stage so that when your time to come up, it will not take so long. We're trying to be considerate of the family. So those on program, if you cannot come up on stage, just please be in this area. So when your time to speak, you won't have too far to come. The other thing is, for those who are speaking and giving tributes to Deborah, who represented the family hall, it has been suggested that you only take 2 to 3 minutes. Because we can go on and on and on. I know about Deborah, you can just go on and on and on. But we are asking you to limit yourselves today in consideration of this family who have been struggling with grief. Let's limit ourselves to at least 2 or 3 minutes. And if you do that, we appreciate it. Now to the program. This time we have a solo by Minister Kim Moyer, a scripture reading by Deacon Leslie Moyer and Minister Shirley Carter. We have prayer comfort by Reverend George Gunn, and then we will go from there. So let's get started with the program with a solo by Minister Kim Moyer.
If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody that is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody that is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Oh, my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. Then My living shall not be in vain. Oh, my living shall not be in vain. If I can have somebody as I travel alone, then my living shall not be vain.
Amen.
We know that's a perfect testimony for Deborah, as we all call her. She was always helping somebody, sometimes whether they really wanted to help or not. In Bible study often, Deborah didn't like to talk a whole lot, but every once in a while she'd answer a question. I remember her sharing that Psalm 23 was her favorite scripture. And I would pick it whenever she answered a question, because for some reason she would go from ebonics to being real proper. And I would say, that girl been reading. And then she would pop me across the back of the head, and she always get just enough neck for it to be real loud. So I'm going to share her favorite scripture, but I'm going to read it from the Message translation. I like the way that is. The language is plain, Deborah was plain. Is that all right? It says, God, my shepherd, I don't need a thing. You have bedded me down in lush meadows. You find me quiet pools to drink from. True to your word, you let me catch my breath and send me in the right direction. Even when the way goes through Death Valley, I am not afraid when you walk at my side. Your trusty shepherd's crook makes me feel secure. You serve me a 6-course dinner right in front of my enemies. You revive my drooping head. My cup brims with blessings. And Deborah's cup would have had a whole lot of crushed ice in it. Your beauty and love chase after me every day of my life. And now she can testify, I'm back home in the house of God for the rest of my life. Amen.
Bless you.
Family, you have my sincere sympathy. You will certainly be in my prayers. I will be reading from the New King James Version, 1 Corinthians 15, 51 through 58, 2 Timothy 4, 7 and 8. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible has put on incorruption, and this mortal has put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your sting? Oh, ladies, where is your victory? The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Isn't that a good thing?
Amen.
Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. I believe Deborah would say, family, I to me only, but also to all who have loved his appearing. For the family.
Let us bow our heads. Father, we thank you now for another day. We thank you for life, health, and strength. Thank you for mercy and grace. We pray, God, you forgive us of all of our sins, all of our transgressions, that we may be able to get a prayer through. Lord, we're here to thank you for sharing with us one of the most beautiful spirits, a sense of humor, God, an athlete extraordinaire, a friend in her community, sister, everything that you could think of that come under friend. And she was a rose in your garden, and you came to claim her. And we thank you, God, for bringing her our way. Because of her, we are better people. Thank you for all that she did as far as the children, as far as the sports. She represented in so many different ways, and we give you all the glory. Because everything belongs to you. We ask, oh God, you said you go away to prepare a place for us. That where you are, we will be also. But you wouldn't leave us comfortless. We ask that you would send a comfort to this family. Let him hug on this family, God, like only he can. Comfort their hearts. We're hurting right now, and we're saddened, but we know that you are God that can put light where there's darkness. You can put hope where there's despair. Do it, Lord. We thank you for just giving us a listening ear. Thank you for this facility being one of your stop-by places. We ask it all in Jesus' name and for his sake. The church say amen.
I just want to say that when I came to Jerusalem in 1981, Deborah was a member of the church. And when I retired in 2008, she had been very faithful. I cannot remember a time when she was not active and working. And she was my advisor when it came to dealing with the children, sports, when the churches competed. And you know, we called Deborah coach, but Deborah was a player. She played, listen, and on the men team, when we got, our church got a team together, and we had to compete, Deborah would get out those boys, and she would have us win. And the wins that we got many times was because of Deborah Dalton. She was very faithful with the gospel choir. She sang, and she did whatever she could. When we built a park, and some of you might know we have a park in Jerusalem, and when we built the park, she became the director, and she kept the park open and for the community, for Jerusalem children. I could go on and talk about the things that Deborah Dalton did. She was unassuming. She was not out front, trying to claim any kind of recognition. But in the background, somebody say background. In the background, Deborah was always working and doing things to try to bring glory to God and to bring success to young people and to children, whether it be have been on her job at school or at Jerusalem at the church. So today I just want to say, that to the family that we are very proud and I'm very happy that I got to know Deborah Dalton. That she was a friend of mine, and she was a faithful worker and a confidant at the church. So thank God for Deborah Dalton. Let's say thank God.
Thank God.
For Sister Deborah Dalton.
Sister Deborah Dalton.
Amen. Amen. So now we're going to have these, first of all, acknowledgments of church resolution by Ms. Jennifer Wallaton. The tributes, we have Ms. Barbara Martin, representative, nephew representative. We have Ms. Q Tucker. We have Ms. Angela Pickard, we have Nancy Kelly, and we have Annie Cancheria. All these will be speakers who will come and give tributes to our sister Deborah Dalton. This time, Sister Walter.
Giving honor to God, to Bishop Williams, to Bishop Barry Jackson, to Reverend Dunn, and all ministers of the gospel, and to this wonderful London. I have a letter from the Western North Carolina District Convocation that I would like to read first. Today, the Western North Carolina District family of the United World Church of America joins in with you as you mourn the passing of your beloved sister and family member, Mrs. Deborah Ellison Dalton. We know that words are inadequate at a time like this, so we rely on God for help and strength in our belief and rejoice in the assurance of knowing that she is now resting in the eternal arms of the Lord. We will continue to lift you in prayer, Minister Rosetta Badgett, and the immediate family, knowing that God will uplift you gently, take the sorrow that you bear, then comfort you with healing in the safety of his care. We recommend to you to elevate upon the everlasting arms of Jesus, who can and will heal the pain that this change in the family circle brings as you continue to remember as a life well lived. Prayerfully submitted, Bishop Gregory K. Hargrave, President, Bishop James W. Brooks, Vice President, and Bishop Mary E. Jackson, Second Vice President. June 13, 2022, to the family of our dear sister Deborah Ellison Dalton. According to his tender mercy, God has seen fit to move from our midst our beloved sister, Sister Deborah Ellison Dalton. It is with heavy hearts that we acknowledge her homework, as her passing has left an empty space and another break in your family circle, and it has also done the same for our Jerusalem family. However, in the midst of our sorrow, we are celebrating wonderful memories that we have of her life. Having joined Jerusalem as a child, Deborah attended Bible church school in Lafayette. She participated in plays and sang in the youth choir and attended Vacation Bible School. She was a faithful member throughout her life. She sang with the gospel choir. The only time the joking, cheerful personality did not emerge was when she was asked to lead a song, No Turning Back. She was nervous, and she did not want to do it, but she did, and she did a great job. However, she refused to ever do it again. Her nerves overtook her outgoing joking personality. She has also, as Bishop Williams said, been part of the camp and an advisor for the young people also. We have missed her presence during her illness. We miss seeing her drop her head when she could not keep from laughing at her own jokes. Her presence during services given by various organizations showed her faithfulness and her support, even if she was not a member of the group. She has been missed in the kitchen also, where she did not mind helping clean up after various events. The homegoing of one of God's children is a celebration of a life well lived. While our humanity causes us to grieve, we do not mourn as those who have no hope. We believe, as 1 Thessalonians 4:14 tells us, for if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them also who sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. We love you, Deborah. We love your family. And God loves us all. In his care, Jerusalem United Holy Church, Bishop Deborah E. Jackson, pastor.
Bishop Jackson, Bishop Williams, to the Ellison and Dalton families, to the Booker T. Washington High School class, 1967. I would like to thank you all for this opportunity to offer a few reflections as we celebrate the life of our friend and classmate, Deborah Ellison Dalton. Many of us started our school days in friendship with Deborah at North Scale Street Elementary School. When you've known someone since elementary school and you lived in the same neighborhood, or you grew up with them in the same church, it's really not easy to remember life without them. Neighborhood friends were like family. Many of us walked to elementary school together and later walked to high school together. George Scales described us as a part of the cup of sugar generation, where you didn't mind and were not afraid to ask your neighbors to borrow a cup of sugar. We needed each other, depended on each other, and everyone was family. George also shared how he thought Deborah possibly sharpened her skills in sports. And every classmate that I spoke to highlighted how excellent she was in playing sports. Deborah's early start with softball may have been in play school, may have been in play areas, also known as fields, beside her childhood home and behind Zion Baptist Church on Harrison Street, as well as the Red Field, which is the current site of Marcellus Apartments. Pete Williamson was the coach. Later, moving the games to those center. If you were able to follow this timeline, you have probably figured it out. She was playing softball with the guys in the neighborhood and proved she could hit a softball as far as anybody. Again, meaning as far as the guys. In elementary school, Paulette Settle also remembers the recess hour in Mr. White's class. This was during our playtime. They played softball, Deborah was first base, and Paulette was the pitcher. As we moved into high school, Jimmy Gravely remembers Deborah excelling in all sports, particularly in basketball. When we were students, the girls' high school sports were included in our gym classes. Although girls played half-court basketball and the boys played full-court basketball, Deborah outplayed and out-dribbled many of the guys. Interpretation, she didn't dribble like the girls. By the end of our senior year in high school, Deborah and Charlie Hunt were recognized as best athletes of the class of 1967. Now that we all know how great Deborah was in sports, I would be perilous if I didn't also add that she was a member of the high school band. When asked, some of our classmates described Deborah as always laughing, joking, and bringing joy to others. Peggy often said it was as if her mission was to make you laugh. Deborah, as we know, was sweet and lovable, lots of fun, and a big cutout. She was also straight up and frank. No debate when unnoticed. Afterwards, it was always forgotten and back to the love. This, my friends, is a rare quality. This, my friends, is about friendship. Deborah and I were forever friends, and I will truly miss
For memories that never fade, we will close by saying, Deborah was a faithful member of the Liberty Washington High School class of 1967. She was very supportive in our reunion activities. For passing these awards in our hearts, Deborah is deep in our hearts and will continue there warmly as long as there is life within us. The best of friendship is that though it may face death, yet the society and friendship itself remains immortal. Friendship is and always will be ever present. To Julius and the entire Ellison family, to the Dalton family, we the class of 1967 extends to you our heartfelt sympathy. May God truly bless you all. Thank you. Classmates, you may be seated.
First, giving honor to God, Bishop Jackson, Bishop Williams, and guest ministers. When they called me and told me I was going to be on the program, I kept talking, trying to tell Edna that I can't do this. She just kept right on talking, didn't give me a chance to say, I can't do this. In a matter-of-fact way, she just said, you're on the program. I want to thank the family for giving me this opportunity to talk about my best friend forever, Deborah. Although this is not my cup of tea, as she would say, with the help of the Lord, I can get through this. It is totally impossible for me to condense 64 plus years of memories into 2 or 3 minutes, but I will do it. My earliest memory of Deborah was us in my front yard playing hopscotch. And my granddad is standing in the door saying, y'all better sweep that yard before you leave here. Because, you know, of course, we didn't have grass in the front yard, only dirt and rocks. Little at that time did I know that this was the beginning of my lifetime friendship and sisterhood. Just about every day, Deborah and I walked to school together, walked to school to North Scale Street Elementary School, then to Booker T. Washington High, until I changed schools. Every day after I changed schools, we talked every day about something. Most of the time we argued, but we were friends. We never stayed mad with each other more than a day. Because one of us was going to call the other one and get back together. If you didn't know Deborah, you might think she was mean or unfriendly, simply because she had a sharp tongue and talked a lot of junk all the time. I learned very quickly and early that Deborah was not mean. You just had to get her before she got you. Once you had the upper hand of talking junk to her, she
would just laugh and say, "You make me sick." Deborah was a real sweetheart most of the time, though she could be very stern when she needed to be, and a junk-talking sister all the time. Deborah was a bargain hunter. She did not believe in paying full price for anything. She would wait for it to go on sale or try to find it at the Goodwill or yard sale or just do without. Girlfriend knew the exact time Lowe's Foods put the fried chicken on discount. And if she got there too early, she would wait for it to be discounted. And don't mention Wendy's 99-cent chicken sandwiches. She was truly the discount queen. She would tell me that she was being thrifty. And I told her, no, you were being stingy. Deborah and I have seen each other at our worst as well as at our best times. We played together, we worked together, we cried together, we prayed together, and we raised our kids together. All week, I had been reminiscing about our times together and feeling very sad. Just thinking about the things that we had gone through. But Deborah had been sick for quite a while, and she had become a prisoner in her body for a long time. And on last Monday morning, God looked down upon my friend, Deborah, and said, enough. It's time for you to be paroled.
Come on.
And he took her with him. I thought about it, how can I be sad about this? Deborah is now with her Creator, safe and sound. Right now, my heart is heavy, and I will always miss her smiling, greeting me as girlfriend or Miss Thing, but I'm not as sad because I know that Deborah is with the Lord. I have been blessed, and I have been blessed to have had someone like Deborah for 64 plus years to grow up with and to share our lives. I will deeply miss my sister and my best friend forever, and will always, always love her. Thank you.
Coach D. She was mine, but I called her Coach D too. I could say a lot about her too, but I'm going to use this time to read a few posts from her students, former students and players that probably couldn't be here today or could, and we just didn't have the time to let everyone speak. But we want them to know that you meant a lot to her. That game, something she loved the most. Nah, man, not Coach D. One of the best coaches I've ever had. I swear when I wasn't coming off my feet right, or releasing my shot fast enough, coming out of the game, she would always tell me what was up and kept it real. Love you, Coach. KG. Heartbroken, yet my memories are flooded with laughter. Coach D, where to begin? From you yelling crossover, trainer. If you're gonna be the guard, stand out of the forward position. You're too short. No eating on the bus before the game, and you eating the cheeseburgers in Jonte's face before we pulled off, reminding us to pack our bags, give you our jewelry, and never take any wooden nickels from these hard-headed boys. More than a coach, more than a mother, take your rest, put your whistle down, and let God's love embrace you. It's the expression upon your face that I shall always remember as I ran off the basketball court. One which says I love you and should knock you out for fouling out again. Rest in peace, Coach D. Love you. Katrina Harrison. One of the reasons I picked up a ball in the first place, she would always tell me, box out, DB. Use them hips, child. Coach D would be missed tremendously. Class of 2001, Donna Baylor. We all knew Coach D. She was sometimes quiet. She knew a lot, I believe, but she said little. The time I was able to spend with Coach D, she went when Minister Robinson would bring her and Miss Ellison to the salon to get those crowns fixed. When I say we always had the best time singing and praying and praising God, and sometimes all the person needs. Then one time we were doing all of that and Coach D started speaking in tongues, y'all. We just looked and said, okay, God. God took over. These are great memories to keep. But the joy of being able to make everyone feel good, even when they were not feeling their best, brings me joy, even in the beauty shop, the best salon that is. Coach D, take your rest. Your assignment has been completed here on earth. You will be missed. We love you here at the best salon. Family, hold on to good times. God bless. Lady Portia Stokes Best. Give me a second. Coach D, thanks for the time spent helping and coaching us girls, not only in basketball, but also in church. Stayed on me back then. Take your rest with your daughter, who is always a great person and friend, LaShonda Walkington. This woman made Reesville High School so much better. She was always more than a coach. Her impact expanded beyond the basketball courts, and many of us are men and women who are today because of the talks that we had with Coach D. She has earned her reward. Rest in Christ to someone who really was the greatest of all time, Nate Akins. It took me a while to post this. Coach D, so much I could say. You kept us straight. You kept my sis and the whole basketball team straight. You did not play. You were a mom away from home. You taught us we are classy ladies and we should conduct ourselves that way at all times. That's how I was raised. Thank you. I will carry those memories with me the rest of my life. Take care. Rest, Queen. Quinta Siegel. I hope I said that right. I always mess up her name. Thank you.
Deborah, that's what we call her. I was thinking of the best way, or the best words, or the best word to describe Deborah. The word I came up with is different. If you look up the definition of different, it says not the same, unlike in nature, form, or quality. Perfect word to describe Deborah. Growing up, when we did, we called our aunts and uncles. When we talked about it, we said aunt and uncle before we called them that. So when someone would come up to us, and I'm sure the cousins will agree with this, we would go down the list of aunts and uncles from the oldest down. And we would say, Aunt, Auntie Dee, Aunt Maxine, my mother, two cousins, Aunt Rosetta, Deborah, Uncle Julius, Uncle Stan, Uncle Alton, and Aunt Philip. And I'm sure it happened to them a lot as well. Why don't you call the one Aunt just Deborah? She was different. She didn't want you to call her Aunt Deborah. It was Deborah. She was good with it. She was different. Also, growing up in our time, we said, yes ma'am, no ma'am, all the time. If you go to Deborah and say yes ma'am, she look at you and say, yes ma'am. Who you yes ma'am? Who yes ma'am me? I ain't that old. She was different. I remember a time I was staying at her house, and I was ironing a shirt. Got the iron out, iron board, and everything, got the starch out, got the shirt looking real good. And for whatever reason, when I grabbed the shirt, I had a tendency to roll it up a little bit at the bottom before I put it on. And so right after I got the shirt over my head, boom, she smacked me. That's right here. Again, growing up, when we grew up, when you got hit, you didn't ask why you got hit. It was up to you to figure out why you got hit, so you wouldn't get hit again. So I'm sitting there, as we say these days, feeling some kind of way. And she walked out the room, she came back 5 minutes later, and she said, what in the Sam Hill you gonna iron that shirt for, get it looking good and everything, and roll it up before you put it on? Why would you do that? Take that shirt back off and iron it again. And I took it off and I started ironing it again. She left the room, she came back, and I teared up a little bit, but she knew exactly what to do to help me at that point. She looked at me and she said, and by the way, if you ask me who Sam Hill is, I'm gonna hit you in. She was different. I remember talking to her when she was coaching at the high school, and I would call her and ask her how the game went. First thing I would say is, did you win or did you lose? All of a sudden, she says, let me tell you what your sister Monique did. She took the ball, she threw it to your cousin Crystal. Then she threw it back to her. And they threw it over the, and I'm sitting there, what they doing? Then they got it out again, then they finally scored. I said, Deborah, who won the game? And then let me tell you what Monique did. I said, okay, Deborah, who won the game? And then as she did, let me tell you what Krista did again. I said, Deborah, who won the game? She never told me who won the game. Because she took pride and joy in being able to coach with two Reese's. She was different. She wasn't fancy. She could put on a dress and some pumps now and be a showstopper, but that wasn't her. She's different. She had the means to go out and get a fancy car, hook it up, put some rims on it, all that kind of stuff. That wasn't her. She was good with that bag. She was different. Never wanted to draw any attention to herself. She was different. I talked to one of her former, one of the girls that she coached in high school, Elisha Everett. They called her Lily in school. And Lily took the time out to make some comments about Coach D, as they call her. Lily just recently lost her mother. We want to keep the family of Joyce Harrison in our prayers. But Lily took the time to make a comment to me about Coach D that ran to us. She didn't talk about how many games they won and lost. She didn't talk about how many points she scored. And this is a girl that's one of the, we'll go down as one of the greatest lady high school players in Regional Ram history. She didn't talk about any of that. She said she was a great teacher and someone I really looked to who challenged me to get better and think differently. She was different. Deborah, you were different, not like any other in major form or quality. And we're going to miss you. We take comfort in knowing that you're back with Keisha now.
Before we take our seats, Uncle Junior's coming up just a second, please.
It was hard to follow that. To Elder Jackson and Bishop Williams and to the family, first of all, just thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to just say a word about Deb, as I call her. So much has been said that there hardly seems any need to say much else, because everything that's been said is so true and really epitomizes the person we all knew and loved and will remember. When in Reedsville as the coach here, you didn't have a one coach, and I was it. But somehow Deborah and I crossed paths. And so I asked her if she didn't want to come out and help me. And that was at a time when you didn't have all these coaches. Now I go to games and I go to counting who's the head coach. There's so many of them rode up there. But it was just me. And Deborah said yes. And so I guess I got us started in this coaching thing. And she came, and it wasn't about money, because I don't even think we paid her back then. But she volunteered. And this was all during the 80s. And, it was a great time. She was dependable. She was always here. Whatever time we would have practice, Deb was here. She was trustworthy and loyal to me. And she was trustworthy and dependable and committed to every young woman who put on that brown uniform. We had great times together. We won some games. Joe and Brett, as y'all talked about, did you win the game? We won some, we lost some. But we didn't always talk about X's and O's. Deb and I talked about life. We talked about the importance of the message we were trying to instill in our players so that when they left the court, because we knew that at some point in time that was going to come to an end. But what kind of person would she be? What kind of citizen would she be? And so we wanted to instill those values. And even if it meant that we stayed late to talk to players, or she and I talked down in that locker room, she was always there. And then when I left coaching here, Deborah was my biggest fan when I was at NC State. And then when I ultimately left the sideline and hung up my whistle to go to the NCHSAA, Deb and I stayed in contact. She called me, I called her. We visited at Christmas. Sometimes I'd come home on the weekend and Deborah or Mom would say, Deborah called to check on me. And she called her Miss T. And so I want the family to know that my sister Rochelle and my mom, we have you in our thoughts and our prayers. And we love Deb, and we're never going to forget her. But throughout my career at the NCHSAA, as I said, we stayed in touch with each other. Sometimes she would call me and she said, hey coach, I just need to run something by you. And it might have been talking about Monique throwing the ball over the basket and what Crystal did. It didn't matter. She would call because she wanted some advice and wanted me to help her figure out how can we do this or how can we do that to make a difference. I look forward to getting that phone call from Deborah at the end of the season. Whenever the season was over and we'd go into the playoffs and we'd get to the state championship, Deb was one of the few people who would call me up and say, hey Coach Elrod, Coach Nance, whoever it was, we're coming to the game, can you leave us some tickets? And I'd leave them tickets. I'd get them into the hospitality room, Coach Mullins, and Deb, and Coach Elrod, and they'd have a big time, and I was always excited to be able to see them and let them experience what I was doing at that time. Well, we never forget those people who make a difference in our lives.
And I won't ever forget the Deborah I knew then. And I know that she had those struggles in these later years. And even though I didn't visit, I always had her in my thoughts and in my prayers. And whenever I see Sister Badgett, I would say, how's Deborah? She was loyal. She was committed to whatever it was. She persevered. And she was determined to make a difference. And how do we really honor Deborah? As we think about her and her legacy, we know all the things she stood for. And when I think about Deb, Coach D, Deborah Ann, however you affectionately called her, there are several things that come to my mind, really 3 things that I think we can all do if we really want to honor this person. 1, commit ourselves to the Lord Jesus Christ. She did that. He was first in her life. She was committed and served Jerusalem. She never compromised on that. And she was about service. Service to her Lord and service to her church. Another way we can honor her is to be true to our families. She loved her family. She loved her brothers and sisters and her nieces and nephews. And she loved Keisha. And then she loved her granddaughter, Kenitra. I have Kenitra's picture on my refrigerator because she was so happy about her. And so we should use that example of family. Blood is thicker than water. Be true to each other. Never forget what you mean to each other in the good times and the bad times. Stay true to each other. That's how we will honor Deborah, is by loving our families. And then the third way is be loyal and supportive of your friends. God first, family, and then your friends. And that's how the basketball came into this for Deborah, how she did things in the community. It's because she had them prioritized correctly. Be true to your friends. Be loyal. Listen to them when they need you. Support them in their time of need. Mentor those young people as you go along. And if we can do those 3 things, then we honor the legacy of Deborah. And as I think about her now, I think about her then, but here's what I know. She's with the Lord. She's got brand new knees. And what a blessing. She's got a mind that stays on Him now. She doesn't have to deal with the things we're dealing with now, this confusion in this world. She don't have to wear a mask again. She don't have to worry about how much gas costs now. All of those things are behind her. She's safe in His arms. And that's where we want to be. And this I also know, that not only is she with her brothers and sisters, she's with her beloved Keisha. And so if I could say my last words to Deb, they would be this. We are here, Deb, to celebrate your life and the measure of its worth and every single life you touched while you were on this earth. We wish to pay our last respects to thank you for your friendship and all of the memories we hold dear. It's been a privilege to have known you. We were family, not just friends. And we will carry you in spirit until we meet up once again. Rest in peace, my friend. Thank you.
read a poem that I wrote years ago, and I added some to it for Deborah. I missed you even before today. Right in the middle of your smile, I missed you. In the very moment you started to laugh, even when you were sit alone, I missed you. I missed how you would open the door with a big smile on your face. Even the way you used to drive, saying, you didn't die, did you? I miss how you would rest your head in one hand at the table in thought. I missed your heart. Even before this day, I miss stopping by and seeing you in the yard, watering the flowers or mowing the grass. I missed how we would sit and laugh, how we would talk basketball and life. Even after hours of talking, after I would stand up to leave, I miss how you would say, sit down, you ain't got nowhere to go. Even before this day, I missed you. Deborah believed wholeheartedly that it takes a village to raise a child. And she did her part with excellency. I witnessed it as a player, as I played for Miss Tucker. I witnessed it as a teacher, as she was my assistant in the classroom. I witnessed it on the court, as she was my assistant in basketball. And coach practiced what she preached. And to the family, I know Deborah would agree with the words that I'm saying now to you. When I am blessed to linger in a memory or to grace a late night dream, I hope you remember my smile, remember my laugh. And if it happened to make you cry, I hope that it is because the memory was beautiful. Thank you.
Couldn't do this without bringing a few props. And now we go. Good afternoon. I am honored here today to share some of my memories of Deborah Dalton. I first met her in 1999 when I first came to Reedsville High School to teach here. We enjoyed working together for many years, and I understand from her family, she worked here for over 20 years. It didn't take me very long to understand how much the faculty, staff, and students admired, loved, and respected Coach D. She was always willing to greet you and brighten your day in any way she could. Early on in our work ships. I'll tell you a little story. She went to make copies for me, and she was gone forever. And I kept wondering, what in the world has taken her so long? I was even getting a little perturbed. But then I realized it was because of the connections that she had with everyone. Deborah couldn't walk from point A to point B without being stopped by someone who saw her. And a few of us might be old enough to remember a vintage TV commercial about E.F. Hutton, a stock brokerage firm. It went like this: when E.F. Hutton talks, everyone listens. It was like that with Coach D. Solicited or not, people paid attention to the advice that she gave because they knew it came from her heart. Everyone knew who Coach D was. She had a great rapport with everyone, not just the young ladies she coached or the students she taught. Coach D loved Reedsville High School and cared for all the students. It wasn't just about the athletics or the academics, although she did her best to stress them every chance she got. Deborah was a mentor and a life coach to the students. She wanted them to be happy and successful in any future path they chose. They didn't even seem to mind the gentle reminders that she would give them about following the dress code, because they knew she cared. Whether she was horsing around with them or playing horse with them, they all enjoyed being in her company. We couldn't go out into the community without her stopping to chat with current students, former students, parents, or church members. And sometimes, even on teacher work days, we'd go to Wendy's for our lunch on Freeway Drive, and she had that standing order there, the chicken sandwich, extra crispy fries with no salt. And all she had to do was walk in the door, and they'd make her order. Those are just two examples of the high regard that everyone had for Coach D. In closing, I will remember Deborah, and I will always think of our friendship and the kindness that she showed me over the years and the good times we had with our students. But most of all, I'll remember the love that she had for everyone and their love and respect and admiration that she received in return. And I want to say, the choice of the casket is spot on, the color of it. So, in closing again, go Heels, and go home tonight and raise a toast with your mellow yellow.
Hi, they call me Miss K, Deborah. I always call her Coach D, and I came here from Virginia. I retired in Virginia, and I came to Reedsville High School, and I had taught elementary school. And then I went to, my church asked me to open up a Christian school, and I'd gone through principal training, so I resigned as a public school teacher and went to a Christian school and became an administrator. Well, my husband kept after me, you need your retirement. They're not paying you retirement. You need to get back into public school. So I went back to Henry County schools, and I asked, to come back to work. And they wanted to put me right back in the preschool room that I'd been in for 16 years, and I was getting too old to get up and down on the floor. I had bad days just like that. And so I came to North Carolina, and the only job I interviewed for was at Reedsville High School. I had no idea of the size of the boys down here at Reedsville High School. I walked in for the parent night, and one of the students, I really thought he was the parent. He had a beard, he had a mustache, and he was like 6'2". And I had at least 4 boys over 6 foot tall. And when we would get in the classroom and I would begin to try to teach, they'd be rowdy and they'd be carrying on and cussing and carrying on. And I came to a Christian school. So I was hearing the F-bomb and the you know, all these things all the time. And Deborah would just walk up and smack the back of their neck. She would just slap, and you could hear the smack. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Because my teacher's assistant is smacking these children. Nobody ever went home and told their parents. They were scared of Miss Dalton. So they never went home and told their parents. But I thought, oh Lord, if I hit those children, I'd be fired. In the 8th grade, the boys were in the 9th grade when I came down here. When the assistant principal walked me to the class, and I was a Christian, and so I had done a lot of work with children, and I taught special ed for a long time. And he said to me when I walked down there, while he walked me to my classroom, he said, now, these children will probably not graduate, the ones that you're going to get in the 9th grade. He said, maybe 1 or 2 out of the 12 that you'll get. And I thought, well, that ain't right. That's just not fair. And so the first couple of days, you know, I just got to know the boys, trying to find it. And we had 2 or 3 girls, but we almost always had little boys. And I tried to find out what they were interested in and what they liked. Of course, they loved tennis shoes, and they loved Michael Jordan shirts, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And most of them couldn't afford it. So I had a hookup. My husband worked for a company that made the tennis shoes and the shirts and stuff for Nike. So he would get free samples. And I would bring them to school and put them, hang them on the blackboard. And if they didn't turn their work, if they turned their work in all week, if they didn't get in a fight all week, and the school resource officer had to come pick them up, or, you know, if they just could behave themselves and turn in their work for a week, then they could choose something from the board. But I also told them that I had been told they wouldn't graduate. And I said, I want us to prove them wrong. And I said, I promise you, and I wasn't rich, I was a teacher. But I said, for every one of you that crossed that stage and graduated, I will give you $100. Most of them never had a $100 bill. And so the end of their junior year, my husband got a job in Baltimore working for Under Armour. And so he actually went a year ahead of me, but I couldn't leave Coach D, and I couldn't leave those children. And so I stayed back a year, and he went up and worked to make sure everything was going to work out. And I hated to tell him I wouldn't be there for their senior year, because we had the same group of kids, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. And when I told them, they cried. She threw me a party. They always signed things and gave me all these sweet things. And we all cried. But to this day, 8 of those 12 boys call me at least once a month. We're on Facebook together. They tell me when they're being successful. I had one of my students, I won't call his name, but he called, he got in a situation and something that really upset him, and he called me and he was on railroad tracks. I said, what are you doing there? He said, I'm waiting for the train to come and run over me. And I said, what are you doing? What is wrong? You know, and I tried to talk him out. Come on, you know. He wouldn't listen. And he finally said, Miss Kay, I'm gone. And I could hear the train. And so I called the police department just as fast as I could. Gave them his phone number. They rushed over there and got that kid off the railroad track. He didn't speak to me for about 6 months. He said, I can't believe you did that. And I said, I did it because I loved you. But even after I moved to Maryland, and I went ahead and left their senior year, I had to go up to Maryland. I started teaching in Maryland. I called Mr. Craig, who I had gone to school with, and I said, you're not going to believe this, but I promised those children, if they graduated, I'd give them $100. And I know I don't work there anymore. Can I please be over at the wing over there? You know, and by then they were getting real worried about security. And then when they come across the stage, I don't want them to know I'm coming, but I'd like for them to see me when they come on. And I had a card with a $100 bill stuck in every one of them, and I gave away $900. And we did a lot. I took them to my house one time. I could have gotten in trouble, I guess. But I really, Miss Kelly and Coach D and I really tried to teach them things that they could get jobs at after they leave. We had on landscaping the campus here on Richmond. And I wanted to train them how to paint rooms so they could get a job as a painter or a painter. Because they were all strong, big boys. They just weren't real smart. So I I asked all the teachers if we could come and paint their classroom. They're painting mine, but nobody else would let them paint theirs. So I took them to my house. And here I come in with came back in Reedsville, picked them up, drove them to my house in Virginia, Collinsville, Virginia. And my husband went, and of course, bring it up. Of course, he heard me talking about it. And I made my husband show them how to paint a room, how to tape it up, how to, not get it off splattered everywhere, how to lay out the plastic on the floor and all that kind of stuff. And several of them got jobs in construction and landscaping and things like that. And even after I went to Maryland, I came to visit them. If I had already Atlanta, so if I was driving from Baltimore to Atlanta to come through Greensboro and spend the night, and she used to call me Slipfoot because I had a foot that stuck out like that, and I called her peg leg because her knee was so stiff. And one night when I spent the night with her, the first time I guess, she looked at me and she said, "You know what? I don't think I ever had a black woman sleep in my house." Well, and we used to cook on Fridays. I would bring bacon and eggs and stuff. And we had the home ec room here at Regional, so I taught them how to wash the clothes, how to iron, how to cook. We would do a math lesson on how to, if you have a recipe for 4 people, we got 12 kids in the class, how to add it up and do all that kind of stuff. And Coach D, she'd say, "For a white woman, you can cook." But I loved her and I missed her. And once she got sick and she didn't even, remember who I was, I couldn't keep making the trip down there. But I have really some nice pictures I should send to the family. I've got some really good pictures of her in my classroom. And I know basketball was her thing. I had a daughter that was 5'11", and she was playing for our schools in Virginia. She begged her to come to Reedsville to play, and I wouldn't let her. I wouldn't. But then, she was just always scouting. But I had 3 daughters and 8 granddaughters. She never told me she had all these little nephews. If I had known that, I would have found me a good son-in-law. Thank you for letting us speak today. We love Deborah. We're praying for the family, and we've heard much about all of it. Don't have all the names and faces, but we appreciate it. Thank you.
She was special to me too. I love all of you. Thank you.
know you've been sitting for a while, so while the musician plays softly, we're going to read the obituary, and I'm going to ask everyone to stand, even the family, because I know you've been sitting a long time. You probably need to stretch before our speaker comes. Let us all stand, and we're going to read the obituary solemnly. I hope that helped. We're going to, at this time, have a eulogy by our own pastor, Bishop Mary Jackson, who will come and do the eulogy. But before she comes, solo by Minister Kim Moore.
Come on, let's put our hands together and honor God.
certainly honor our Bishop Elijah Williams, the former prelate of the United Holy Churches of America and former pastor of Jerusalem United Holy Church. Certainly to all of the ministers that are here on today as well. Certainly to the Deborah Ellison Dalton family. I'm praying as we continue to share with you in celebrating her life at this time. As I listened to all of the wonderful things that were said about Sister Dalton, I was sitting there and I said, well, I missed a lot of the good things, but I did get a chance to enjoy just a small portion of her, or should I say of her, but we had personal meetings talking about things and sharing many things together as member and pastor. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity to just encourage the family. Thank you, Brother Julius, and all of those that helped in taking care of her. Before her health started failing, we had a lot of fun as we talked. Just a little bit, but we had a lot of fun. And so I said, wow, I missed all of those wonderful times that others were talking about. So today I'm just going to give you brief words, and of course, we have ministers of Jerusalem in the family as well, and of course, Sister Chris. Everybody, we're just grateful for you, and we pray for all of the family as we celebrate her life. I want to come from 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, as some of it was read and you're hearing the latter part, but I want to move up just a little bit in the text and just give you a few words of encouragement. Out of 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, I am reading from a King James Version. I shall start reading at the 12th verse. And the word of the Lord reads, Now if Christ be preached that he rose from the dead, how say some among you that there is no resurrection of the dead? But if there be no resurrection of the dead, then is Christ not risen? And if Christ be not risen, then is our preaching vain, or your faith is also in vain? Yea, and we are found false witnesses of God, because we have testified of God that he raised up Christ, from whom he raised not up, if so be that the dead rise not. For if the dead rise not, then is not Christ raised? And if Christ be not raised, your faith is vain, ye are yet in your sins. Then they also which are fallen asleep in Christ are perished. Last verse. If in this life only we have hope in Christ, where are all men most miserable. I want to just leave a few words with you from this particular thought. Life beyond death. Life beyond death. Lord, speak, for thy servant heareth. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray. Amen, and we thank you. Most of us understand that life deals with coherence. We understand that life deals with distinguishing differences. We understand that life deals with mobility, moving around. We understand that it is very significant. And I always say that life is a precious commodity, and we are not to take advantage of it. We are to really realize that life is so precious. But when you look at death, death is when one ceases to exist, or when the body ceases to function as a human being. And so when we look at this, and when we look at the text quickly, I want to just draw some thoughts out of here as we reason the scriptures. The Apostle Paul writes to the church at Corinth because there were some arguments about the resurrection. And so the Apostle Paul deals with it
in the matter of defending the fact that there is a resurrection, or that Christ was resurrected. And so it wasn't so much that they didn't believe, but what they believed was that Christ rose from the dead. He was resurrected, but that was it. And they did not believe that there was a resurrection after death. So the Apostle Paul is making it very, very simple, and he's trying to give them a message that if Christ did not raise from the dead, then absolutely man would have no hope after they died. And so therefore he explains to them, and he defends the gospel, but he explains to them that if there was no resurrection, then all of our loved ones and all of those that left before us didn't have a chance, that they would die. And I think one writer said, if in this life, we only have hope, we would not only be miserable, but we would not have a means of surviving after death. So one thing about death is limited. Believe it or not, it is limited. Why is it limited? It is limited on this earth because of the resurrection of Christ. And so although we die on this side, we transition. Because another area of text said, yes, we die, but we transition. And not only that, our soul lives. And so he's reasoning with them and trying to get them to understand that if Christ himself did not die, that our preaching, our reasoning, and what we're saying today is in vain. Not only that, our preaching is in vain if Christ did not die and resurrect. Not only that, in the text he says that there were some things that happened that let me know that it's real. And although the Apostle Paul is writing, he wants to make a few things clear with the church at Corinth. So he says you don't have to argue or debate about this because there's proof that Christ was resurrected. But not only that he took the sting out of death, hell, and the grave. Death, hell, and the grave. And so we know that because remember when he was crucified, amen, it is said that in 3 days he went down into Sheol, took the sting out of death, and can we say, this is just what we use sometimes. He took the keys away from the devil. And when the devil saw him showing up, he knew he was in trouble because he was coming to obtain all power, not only in the grave, but in heaven, on earth, and in heaven. And so there were some things that I wanted you to understand about this text when you get a chance to read it. First of all, it was prophesied of old that the Messiah was coming, because there was a redemptive process that was needed for man. All of you know that we were on our way to hell and there was no hope unless God himself provided a way for us to be redeemed from our own selves. Because remember, the Bible says there was a time when people did what was evil in the eyesight of the Lord, but did what was right in their own eyesight. It sort of reminds me a little bit of today, where everybody's doing their own thing and thinking that possibly they will not give an account. But it was prophesied by the prophets that the Redeemer was come because God had the plan from the very beginning to redeem us from our own selves. And then number 2, it was recognized when the witnesses saw him after the resurrection. Remember, if you read the text, he was seen of many after the resurrection. And so therefore, it was witnessed by them that he was the resurrection. So in other words, he took the sting out of death, hell, and the grave through being resurrected. But not only that, he made provisions for everybody else. Not only that, it was proven by Jesus Christ over in the book of John when he spoke of Lazarus. The Bible says that he spoke to him, called him out of the grave. So he was trying to give us illustrations before he actually died that I am the resurrection. I am the resurrection and the life. And if any man believe this, if he dies, he will live again. So remember, he waited before he went to raise Lazarus from the dead. Nevertheless, the Bible says he wasn't worried about a thing because he was ministering. When he came and called him forth, he came forth by his name. Amen? And so it was proven by Jesus Christ himself that he was the resurrection. And then number 4, it was realized by the Apostle Paul. The Bible says in this very text, although he says, I was not an eyewitness like the apostles, because the apostles were eyewitnesses of Jesus Christ himself walking the earth. He said, I was not an eyewitness. He said, but I tell you this, I was born out of time. In other words, I was born at a time whenever the apostles had already did the work. but he said, I was born out of time because Christ himself met me on the road to Damascus. And therefore, on the road to Damascus, I had a change in my life. But not only that, there was a time when he himself, Christ, asked me, why are you kicking against the pricks? But not only that, he himself showed me his glory. And therefore, I know that he is the resurrection because he showed me this, although I was born out of time. How do you know God knows how to bless whomever he wants, whenever he wants, in what manner that he wants? And so therefore, he reasons with them and he told them to stop arguing about things that should not be argued about. Get in the word and we study it so that we can understand it. So I want to say to the family, as we get ready to go, because you've already eulogized this wonderful, wonderful woman. And I'm sorry that I didn't get a chance to really enjoy some of the times with her. 3 things I want you to remember, and I'm going to take my seat, because I think the service has been a wonderful service as you have honored your loved one. One of the things I need us to remember is to make sure that we keep our eternal perspectives. Although things are going on around us, we must keep our eternal perspectives. The Lord has prepared a home for us, and we're going to go to that home one day. So if we keep our eternal perspective, the earthly things would not get us down to the point where we would be weary and question God, and why did you do this, and why did you do that? We're going to trust him because he knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows that we care, and he cares for us as well. And then number 2, I want you to really remember the eternal values. In other words, when we remember the eternal values, there's something that is given to us that we can appreciate for all of our lives, especially if we know the Christ. We can appreciate those eternal values that are already in place for us. Let's try to remember those eternal values. And then last, remember the eternal hope. Although we die, it's a promise that you will see him again. It's a promise that you'll be able to see the Lord again. But not only that, it's a purpose in why it was done. That we might understand that this old body cannot hold us too long. This body will not hold us too long. But when we transition to the other side, we will, in other words, we will not be sick anymore. The book of Revelation verifies that. We will not have inefficiencies in the body. We will not. But our bodies will be different, and we will be healed. And so I want us to keep that hope. But not only that, it will have permanency to it as well. So you can't take it away from anybody. You can't take it away from me, because when we all get to heaven, what a wonderful time. And I believe that when we get to heaven, that we'll see her again. But guess what? Because I knew, as we would meet, sometimes she was having troubles with her physical anatomy, and we would have prayer often. We would have prayer. But I want to see her again, where she can come up and say, Pastor Jackson. And she might even say some of those things to me. She never said some of those things to me, but I'm just saying, she might say, Pastor Jackson, guess what? I am fine. I am fine. Coach D, I'm fine. So we thank God for her life. And can we all give God another round of applause for the life of Sister Deborah Dalton. We thank you, and be encouraged, family, in the Lord. We don't have time for arguing, fussing, and fighting about anything. The Lord is on his way back, and he's coming to get us.